Aubrey.
There's some people that's in your circle that's telling you that they're your friends and they talking against your future.
Hey y'all, bonjour, bonsoir, welcome wherever you are. I would like to introduce to you guys the first episode of my new series on here called The Critical Corna, a digital sanctuary for critical thoughts and discourse, news, pop culture. My name is Eric, or The Eric Lewis if you're familiar. If you are new here, welcome. We are so happy to have you. And if you're an OG, what's up, girl? What's up?
So me like it. Bring your body, come here, make me ride it.
Really quickly, before we get into the nitty gritty, just some ground rules. Number one, you're learning, I'm learning. We in this together, so let's act like it. And number two, I want this to be an open forum for discussion. There's room for disagreement, not disrespect. So let's keep it cute so nobody got to get the boot. With that being said, the topic for today's video is most obviously this beef between Kendrick and Drake. I honestly wasn't gonna make a video about this mess, offer any commentary, opinions. The business of heterosexual men do not concern me. I'm sorry, I'm not all that tapped into the male sphere of like hip hop or rap. I usually feel safer engaging rap and hip hop through the lens of female artists. It's just more comfortable. And I know for me, my relationship to hip hop or rap has always felt like it was a space deeply rooted in misogyny, misogynoir, homophobia, transphobia. And not to say that that doesn't exist in female rap and female hip hop, but at least the beat is good. But yeah, in today's video, I want to talk about this beef between Kendrick and Drake because the girls are messy. Boobs! Bitch, these motherfuckers forced my hand. So y'all gonna get this commentary. Y'all are gonna get this critical analysis and we're gonna get into all the things. I've never underestimated a man's ability to be messy. I feel like there's this perception or a forced perception that it's only girls who get into drama, who get into petty cat fights and arguments. But anybody who knows me, anybody who's had conversations with me, knows that I think straight men are some of the messiest, gossip-obsessed demographic across all civilization. And this feud proved that. I mean, it's prescription pill bottles on the cover. They calling Drake an Atlanta settler. Kendrick writing words of encouragement to the daughter, to the son. I mean, this is some low down gutter rat shit. And the tracks just kept coming nonstop, back to back, back to back, back to back, back to back. There was a point where I just felt overstimulated. Like it was just too much. And I was like, Kendrick, my God, have mercy. Or somebody said Drake stands for don't rap against Kendrick ever. Like this shit is in different areas. This is too much. Now, I was late to this beef, so I had to do a little bit of super sleuthing and some research just to get caught up, just to, you know, have a full rounded analysis and understanding of what led up to these events. So I'm going to quickly run through this timeline just so you guys, anybody who hasn't been following as closely, can have that background contextual information, and then we can get into the bone marrow of my commentary. So according to my research, both artists obtained mainstream status around the early 2010s. Kendrick actually collabed on a track with Drake. It was featured on his 2011 album, Take Care. And Kendrick had Drake featured on his 2012 studio album, Good Kid, Mad City. Around 2013 is when tension starts to bubble. In a featured collab with Big Sean, Kendrick disses Drake and several other rappers like J. Cole, Meek Mill, Whale, Pusha T, A$AP Rocky, etc., etc. The exact lines from that song read, I got love for you all, but I'm just trying to murder you. Trying to make sure your core fans never heard of you. They don't want to hear not one more noun or verb from you. Drake never directly addressed these shots in music and song, but in subsequent interviews post this track being released, he did partake in some interviews where he voiced his feelings around Kendrick's mention of him and several other rappers. What did he say in those interviews? Like, what was his thing?
One of the most important things that he said was that he didn't like how Kendrick came with that kind of intensity or energy, because he kind of said that it would kind of put him in a box where for every single subsequent song that Kendrick would have to make after, he would have to quote unquote have the same intensity or energy, or else fans wouldn't think that, you know, he's entertaining or fans wouldn't be appealed by it.
So yeah, that very same year, Kendrick would sub Drake again at the BET Hip Hop Awards Cypher. From 2015 to 2016, it's just like jabs, lick shots, they take at each other back and forth, and then they kind of lay low for a bit and lay dormant. But in all the research that I did, I still don't feel like there was enough substantive information available to me as to why Kendrick had this beef or incessant dislike and hatred for Drake. And I think in conversation with my brother, he's on the other side of the screen, I got a little bit more context. I feel like, are you a rap head? Do you consider yourself a rap head?
I don't consider myself a rapper, but I do keep in touch a lot. It shows up mostly on my social media, and then my friends talk about it. But
so why do you think, why is Kendrick beefing
so
with
here's
Drake?
one thing that Kendrick did mention early on after he did collab and was on tour with Drake. He kind of had this sort of perspective where he saw Drake for what he was and compared it to himself. He mentioned in interviews that while on tour, he saw that him and Drake are two different people. He realized that early on, music artistically wise, style wise. He thought of Drake as the rich boy who, you know, has it all. They have all the money, they want the fame, that's important to them. But while he was on tour, he said he had a moment of period where he was questioning like whether or not if Drake's lifestyle is what he wanted. Mm-hmm. If that truly was something that he wanted to have, something that he wanted to possess, something that he wanted to take, right? And so he came to the realization that that's not the type of person he wanted to be. He wanted to carve his own path. He wanted to be more on his conscious-ish, like people like to say, right? Because that's what's important to him. When he drops that bar in Control, I don't think he expected Drake to become sensitive about it. I think that's what really set it off.
And when you say sensitive, like what do you mean?
Let me give you a tidbit of what Drake said in one interview in 2013. Mm-hmm. He said to the interviewer, just think about the song right now in reference to Control. He says, just thinking about the track right now. He's like, can you name me or can you recite to me the whole verse? And so the whole audience starts erupting and, you know, he's looking at them and he's laughing and he's getting approval. Like that was basically him saying like, yeah, it was a hot bar or like a viral bar, but nobody's going to remember it. So that right there was like, ooh, okay, you're saying nobody's gonna remember what Kendrick said about you guys?
You had mentioned earlier that he was talking crazy shit about Kendrick.
Okay, so there's information out there from ESPN employee Marcellus Wiley. He works at ESPN. He said that there was a 2014 interview that ESPN did with Drake, where Drake was just straight up roasting, like, he got angry, like he was talking volatile towards Kendrick, like he was just saying volatile stuff, like it was fighting words to the point where, and it was recorded, by the way, that interview was recorded, but UMG, Universal Music Group, went to ESPN and told them, do not air that recording of that interview on television, do not air it anywhere, and if you do, Kendrick would not host the 2014 ESPYs. So it's like, oh. And Marcellus Wiley said that he wrote about it in his book, but he never went into full detail until recently, couple of days ago on his podcast. Mm-hmm. He said that he called Top Dog Entertainment, some boys at Top Dog Entertainment, and they told him, listen, thank you for telling us, but don't say anything at all.
Top Dog Entertainment is Kendrick's?
Yes, Kendrick's label. That's the people that Kendrick signed under.
So it got back to Kendrick that Drake was talking shit about him.
Exactly. So this has been brewing. This, like, when we say that Kendrick has stuff in the vault for Drake, that's been brewing since late 2013 going into early 2014.
All right, well, there's the context, there's the information. So yeah, 2015 to 2016, they throw slight jabs at each other, say nothing for a while, they lay dormant. And now fast forward to October 2023, J. Cole, Drake land on a song together. The song is titled First Person Shooter, and J. Cole makes mention of Drake, Kendrick, and himself as the big three. The big three in rap. Kendrick will later respond on a track titled Like That in March of 2024, featuring Future, produced by Metro Boomin, saying, "Motherfuck the big three, It's just big meat. It'll be those two specific tracks that end up catalyzing the wildfire that spread throughout these past couple of weeks where Drake and Kendrick break out into this rap beef. What's a little bit funny to me is when I was doing research for this and I read what J. Cole had said in that song in First Person Shooter, I didn't see that there was anything wrong with what he said. Like, I thought it was just like if anything, I thought it was kind of like a compliment. Like, he was saying they all hold a space in hip hop and rap of utmost importance and significance. And so he is positioning those three, himself, Drake, and Kendrick, as hip hop leaders, as hip hop architects, as people to be respected and revered. But I think what I found the most funny is realizing that Kendrick was so disgusted at the mere thought and insinuation that his pen, his artistry could ever be compared to that of Drake. I think that in and of itself just let me know how much disdain and disgust he holds for this man.
Kendrick was actually supposed to be on First Person Shooter. Him, J. Cole, and Drake were supposed to be on First Person Shooter. Drake felt reluctant but still reached out because it would have been a great collab having what J. Cole said about them being the big three, it actually having the big three on the song. Not only that did Kendrick find that disrespectful, throughout every single subliminal shade and sneak diss that Drake has been throwing back and forth with him, to have J. Cole on that record and actually mention the big three, Kendrick has already made it well known to people before. He is very selfish. In fact, on Control, he showed that. When it comes to deciding who's the best at rap, he takes that very seriously. He wants to be known as the only one. He doesn't care about the big three. Mm-hmm. He cares about his status. He cares about him being the top dog, hence being with Top Dog Entertainment. You get what I'm saying? So he wants to be the top dog. Drake reached out to Kendrick. To be on the song. He declined.
Oh.
Well, let me clarify. There's two alternatives to the story. One is either he declined, or two, he didn't submit something in time for it to come out. Either way, Drake decided, you know what? I don't need Kendrick on it. I have J. Cole. We're still going to move forward or ahead with the plan.
Got it.
And so when he saw that, you know, especially because Drake also was saying stuff on First Person Shooter. It wasn't so much what Cole said. It was having Cole say his thing, mention Kendrick, and then Drake giving those subliminal sneak disses again, which Kendrick was like, okay, I'm tired of this. Let's handle this.
Wow. This is the importance of being in community with straight allies. Do you see the breakdown, the critical analysis? This is what I'm talking about. Cause the research I was coming across on the internet, it wasn't giving all of this nitty gritty details. It wasn't giving Reddit, it wasn't giving subreddit a complete, concise historical breakdown and citations. It's not giving all that. Thank you, Straggy. Yes, thank you, Straggy. So post Kendrick clapping back on that song with Future on Summits, motherfuck the big three, it's just big me. J. Cole responds with this piss poor diss track titled 7-Minute Drill. He not saying much, dabbles in a bit of transphobia. And to be honest, I don't give a fuck. I wasn't seeing it for J. Cole after that shit he pulled with No Name. The fact that 2 to 3 business days after dropping that track, he then rescinds his diss on some kumbaya, one love, Bob Marley, one love. None of that shit, not even a quarter, not even a teaspoon of that energy was reserved for No Name when he came unprovoked for her. I don't give a fuck. You was a puss ass hoe. It's just further proof for me that he felt threatened by her intellect. He felt threatened by her prowess as an effective orator, as somebody who reads more, who actually can pick up a fucking book and open it and flip through the pages and know what the fuck they're talking about. I'm really in your shit. What you did to my sister. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do it. I lost myself. I lost control. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't do that weird shit. Like, keep the same energy. What you did to No Name, you couldn't do that shit to Kendrick. You couldn't do that shit to Drake. And why? What's the reason? I know. We know. It's because she's a woman. She's a black woman. You felt more comfortable pressing her. You felt more comfortable being confrontational with her on a track unprovoked. But you couldn't hold that same energy with your peers, with your male peers. I see you. But ultimately, those events are what lead to this rap beef, this feud between Kendrick and Drake, absent of J. Cole. So I'm going to provide you guys with a chronological list in order of all the rap disses from Drake and Kendrick. So we start off with Push-Ups from Drake. He then follows up with Tailor Made, which was pulled off streaming. I gotta pause. What Drake did on Tailor Made was some of the most corniest shit I've ever seen in rap. And I'm not even a rap fanatic. You used an AI produced voice of Tupac on a diss track. His estate sues you, tells you, bitch, you better pull that shit off the fucking air or we are suing you for everything you are worth. And then affirm their support for Kendrick. There were so many mistakes made on Drake's side of the aisle of this rap beef that it almost pained me. Like to feel that level of cringe course through my body, course through my vertebrae. And to be witnessing this in real time. And I honestly can imagine what it felt like for Drake stans. Like this was AI, Tupac. The estate sues you. Now you gotta pull a diss track off streaming. You gotta take that L. You gotta swallow it. Matter of fact, I was praying that Tupac rose from the dead and chain whipped you with his gold fucking Cuban link. Yeah. I wish he could have beat the shit out you, because why would you do that shit? The fuck? Anyways, let's get back on track. Tailor Made does not count. Then Kendrick drops Euphoria. We're going to get into thoughts on that later. He follows that up with 616 LA, which the geniusness, the layers to 616. I think we were talking about this. 616 represents Father's Day. And then what else? That was the day Euphoria, the show, aired for the first time.
Tupac's birthday is June 16th, 616.
Tupac's birthday, 616.
The cover art for 616 in LA is a Maybach glove, and that glove signifies O.J. Simpson's trial because that occurred 6/16, June 16th as well. I can't remember if that was the start of it or if that was the final date of that trial. But this was in reference to what Drake foolishly said in Tailor Made Freestyle, where he says, I know we're waiting on you. We're waiting for your response. He said, and to just paraphrase for him, you better have some quintuple entendre or some shit that blows my mind, knowing you.
Bitch, this shit was in different fucking areas.
You ask for, you shall receive.
Baby.
Amen.
Okay. So post 616 LA, Drake drops Family Matters. Not even and I wish y'all could see how Twitter was in uproar. Like, I witnessed this in real time. Drake dropped Family Matters, and I want to say not even 2-3 minutes later, an announcement is made. Kendrick tweets out, "Meet the Grams." And y'all, when that song came on, when I played that song, when I cut that song on for the first time, I felt chills through my body. I felt a demonic presence, a demonic entity fill the room. I saw a shadow move across the white walls in the building I was in. And that demonic entity that I felt was a hate, but a hate of conviction. And I'm listening to the song. This was in the dead of night. I'm listening to the song and I'm just hearing some of the most vitriolic bars and lyricism being directed at this person that Kendrick has a nasty disdain, a nasty level of hatred for.
He first starts off saying to Drake's son, Adonis, I'm sorry that your man is your father. Imagine. That's like, how do you opened with telling that little boy, I'm sorry that Aubrey is your father, but then tells him in that very first kind of like stanza opening, tells him, when you turn 18 years old, I want you to play this back. Imagine being grounded. Imagine Adonis being grounded, slams the door, and starts playing that song at full volume.
So then after Meet the Grams, Kendrick follows that up with Not Like Us, which is a bop. It is a cookout special, a track you can dance to. It is my understanding that Kendrick doesn't make songs or bops that people typically would like dance to in the club. That's never been his style. Like, he's considered or regarded to be a rapper who specifically stays or abides by the whole conscious rap lane and genre and overall aesthetic of music. And that's the corner he stays in. Not Like Us was sort of meant to be like this get back at Drake and be like, bitch, I can do everything that you do and better. I can give bops. I can pen and churn out fucking tunes that people would go up to in the club. Like, you ain't doing anything. Beat the grams. That's an occasional, like, if I'm ever in a season of my life where I want to practice that level of hateration, like, I might go back and tap in just to kind of get some inspiration, just to get into the feels that tap into that conviction. But I'm not, my spirit cannot. And then finally, Drake ends the feud with The Heart Part 6, which my brother explained to me. The Heart Part 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the case, is something that Kendrick had already done prior in his music. Like, it was like a series.
Right, so Kendrick has this series called The Heart, and he's made parts 1 through 5. And basically, like, that's his thing.
Yeah.
The reason why Drake titles this recent diss track The Heart Part 6 is really to dig at Kendrick. I don't know if Kendrick can create a song now called The Heart Part 6, because that was his plan. That's his series. That's something he does. I don't know if he has to legally fight that in court, if that's a litigation issue now. He'd have to change it, and it puts him in a situation where either he has to name it like The Heart Part 6 Part 2, which is kind of weird. It would make it weird, or he has to completely skip it and go to number 7. And I don't feel like he would necessarily want to do that. You know, he wants to keep it in chronological order. Yeah. So Drake doing that really shows you how much of
petty. He was just grasping for straws.
He's just a straight asshole.
Now, I'm not going to do a deep dive into each of these tracks separately. I'm honestly just here to offer commentator perspective and opinions on this rap feud, kind of assess what I took away, some themes, interrogate some themes, offer critical analysis and perspective on some of the things that were mentioned, and then ultimately, with all things considered, let you guys know who I feel won the rap battle. So we're gonna get into all of that now. A reoccurring theme I noticed in this rap feud between Kendrick and Drake was the incessant mention of abuse, or the incessant weaponization of abuse, whether physical or sexual. With Drake, it was the predator grooming allegations. With Kendrick, it was Drake unleashing these allegations of him putting his hands on his wife. And even though, in my opinion and many others, Kendrick's harsh and clever weaponization of these allegations within this feud may have secured him a win in the public eye, I need both these men to be fucking for real. As I mentioned early on in the video, hip-hop is a deeply homophobic, transphobic, misogynistic terrain, right? And with the constant weaponization and mention of predatory behavior, abuse in their respective industry circles, I couldn't help but listen to some of these songs and think like, child, why are the girls collateral damage? And why is this the first time we're hearing about some of these things? Drake over here hooting and hollering about Kendrick allegedly putting hands on his wife, which, if this is a real thing that took place, I think people should definitely give their attention to it. But not too long ago, you was just screaming free Tory after he shot Meg. You shouted out Chris Brown on a track. Kendrick shouting pedo this, pedo that, talking about predatory behavior. You just had Kodak on your last project. Kodak Black, the man who went on record saying that he refuses to date dark-skinned women. He doesn't even like his dark complexion because it's too gutter.
I just said I don't like women with my complexion. I like light-skinned women. I want you to be lighter than me. I love African-American women, but I just don't like my skin complexion.
Okay. Well, I like your skin complexion.
We too gutter. Black people, my complexion, we too gutter. Light-skinned women, they more sensitive, you know?
There's some dark-skinned women out here sensitive.
No, they too tough. They too tough. Light-skinned women, we could break them down more easy, you know what I'm saying?
And then, girl, you got Metro Boomin, Mr. BBL Drizzy himself, with tweets dating back to 2011, 2013, talking about some I'll beat the charge, age ain't nothing but a number. My God, today, bros, we are throwing stones from glass houses. Amid society's current climate, and also understanding that we're living in an attention economy, like, these are people who are fighting for the attention and focus of the people, it comes as no surprise. It makes all the sense that these men didn't give not even a second thought to the optics of mudslinging these salacious details about predatory behavior, abuse, using these topics as provocative fodder for petty rap beefs. Like, they were chasing oohs and ahs, literally saying and doing the most as a means of demoralizing one another, trying to destroy each other's perceptions in their respective lanes within the industry. And when you take all of that into consideration and you measure their actions against their stated values, so for the sake of critically engaging, right, like, I think it's fair to say that neither of these men can posture or perform as though they have, I don't know, more of a moral high ground than the other. But as for my earlier question or statement about, like, why are we just now hearing some of these things? Like, why are these things just now coming to light in these rap beefs? I think that has everything to do with the culture of secrecy that is embedded in the customs of hip hop. This code of silence, no snitching, is something that contributes to the cyclical abuse in these hip hop spaces. It remains unchecked, it's swept under the rug, they run rampant in these industry circles, only to resurface and come to light when these rappers find it to be of use or convenient so they can hop on wax and demoralize one another. And it's performative. It's not giving what it needs to be giving, right? Like, even if the delivery is clear, cleverly written, it's a nasty diss, like, these have real life implications for people, the most affected, which usually is women. Another part of this conversation that I wanted to address was Kendrick's constant jabs at Drake being biracial. Somebody referred to Drake as an Atlanta settler. I definitely think there's something to be said about the way Drake is a shapeshifter of sorts and how he takes on these cultural, regionally specific sounds, elements, and the way he siphons creativity and influence from them with no proximity or connection to these cultural or musical styles and art forms. It doesn't help that in the middle of this rap beef, his go-to response to Kendrick was to respond on some, "You always rapping like you trying to get the slaves freed." Like, bitch, if that's not the most Canada mixed shit to come out of somebody's mouth, I don't know what is. You're definitely talking like the corporate jukebox that you are for UMG. They got you locked up in them sweatshops, penning away hits, talking crazy at the side of your neck. Like, why would you say anything like that? In addressing this so provocatively, Kendrick brought an important conversation about exploitation in hip-hop to the forefront of these discussions, and he used Drake's artistry to anchor his point. But what I also found interesting was to see peers in my circle, people online, also simultaneously have a conversation and call Kendrick to task on what they felt was his version of cultural exploitation and how they feel as though he's been exploiting freedom fighter, black radical aesthetics, and revolutionary talking points for commercial profit. So now the question for some is Drake exploiting black culture any more than Kendrick is? And I want to reiterate, when you measure the actions of these men versus their stated values, like, that is something worth taking into consideration. It's not necessarily an indictment on their character, but more so to say, like, this is what I'm hearing, but I don't see you doing. An example would be specific to what's taking place on the world stage right now, what's at the forefront of everybody's mind. What's happening to Palestinians is something we've been asking celebs to support and rally behind and bring more attention to. And Drake is one out of a few celebrities who actually signed on to a ceasefire letter for Palestinians undergoing assault and occupation in Rafah, right? And we've heard nothing from Kendrick's camp. But when you think about the space he occupies and how that in and of itself is antithetical to the conscious rap sphere, it's kind of like, what are we doing? And since we're on the topic of conscious rap, I feel like for conscious rap, to be conscious and to exercise that in your music, I feel as though for some artists, it feels as though they have settled on conscious rap being a genre instead of their praxis. And this doesn't have to be a critique solely reserved for Kendrick, right? But I do feel as though we and these artists should consider what it means to be conscious, what it means to align ourselves with certain imagery, aesthetics, to say that we hold a certain politic, state these values, and then assess whether or not that aligns with how we move in the real world, whether or not that aligns with how we practice in the real world. Now, if you ask me who won, Kendrick, without a doubt. To me, Kendrick demonstrated a proper masterclass on what it looks like to hate, to hate with conviction, to hate with a purpose, to hate with intention. And not many people within the industry, not many people, period, have been able to master that craft, right? Like, if you're gonna talk your shit, like, this is the way you do it. Top tracks that did it for me: Euphoria, Not Like Us, Meet the Grams. Top 3. Meet the Grams, like I said before, a little bit dark. I'm gonna have to tap into her occasionally. So really, I guess I should say Not Like Us and Euphoria. But I think all 3 of those solidified for me who won, who had the pen, and who really came to talk their shit. I mean, yeah, my first one, like my last one, it's a classic. You don't have one. Let your core audience stomach that, then tell them where you get your abs from. Why you trolling like a bitch? Ain't you tired? Trying to strike a chord and it's probably a minor. He a fan, he a fan, he a fan. Freaky ass nigga, he a 69 god. Freaky ass nigga, he a 69 god. He calling him a fan, child. Like, he trying to stun him. Like, this.
So, I don't know if you noticed, but FAN, it's the acronyms for freaky ass nigga.
Whoa! What? Yo, this shit is in different areas. I'm sorry, this shit is crazy. Now, Brianna, how are you going to recover from this? How? They said you lied about feeding Kendrick information. You lied about the abdominal etching. You lied about the Jamaican accent. You not from Atlanta. Child, anyways, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up this person and give them their flowers for their contributions to this year's onset of rap beefs. Meg the motherfucking Stallion. Meg, you did it again, girl. Meg read that shape-shifting, abdominal etched, bubble wrap, torso built bitch, puss ass trick out the fucking duplex. And it's not a single bitch that could tell us some shit. When Meg said cosplay gangsters, fake ass accents, posted in another nigga hood like a bad bitch, there was a cataclysmic shift in the realm of the spirit. Do you understand me? Ozone layer healed. World hunger gone. War no more. In my personal opinion, she set the tone and the temperature for the entire landscape of hip hop this year as it pertains to rap beefs. And to be quite frank, I don't think any of the girls' bars would have hit as much if it hadn't been for her delivery, for her jumping on wax to talk her shit, given her experience, given her trauma, given her positionality as a woman. To do what Meg did and to talk the shit that Meg talked and the way that she did it with the pen that she did it with, a bad bitch. I truly do think that Kendrick's bars wouldn't have hit as hard if it hadn't been for Meg airing out that Canada Dry. I'm sorry. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed my commentary. Again, if you are new here, I'm so glad to have you. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you subscribe. And for my OGs, as I announced in the previous video, I do have a Patreon now and it is up. It's available. I provided the link for you guys in my description box. I've been online for 4 years making social justice commentative content. I've learned that I cannot depend on brands, institutions, corporations to pay my bills, especially given the kind of content that I make and the kind of conversations I'm holding space for online. And I also felt like I needed a space to talk my shit, air out all the tea that I wanted to, and not feel like I have to be so filtered as I am sometimes, that the space requires me to be online on these platforms in front of massive audiences, right? And so I felt like making this Patreon was my way of curating a space where I felt safe enough, I felt confident enough to say the things that I need to say and build closer relationships with people who care, who want that intimacy. You know, not too long ago, I came on here and shared my experience working at a nonprofit and how I was subsequently terminated for speaking out against racism, discrimination, transphobia, Islamophobia, host of things, a whole bunch of drama. And everything about the way that situation went down has completely shifted my perspective on what I need to do to survive, and never wanting to be in a position where my survivability is dependent on the check from a white institution who will at any moment's notice bar me from speaking my mind or treat me any kind of way. And so that is my reason for making the Patreon. I want to continue making content and sustain myself in the way that I want to on my own terms without input from non-Black folk who are racist and anti-Black. On my Patreon, depending on which tier you go for, I'll be offering weekly video diaries and chats, music, pop culture reactions that probably won't be available on YouTube. It depends on how I'm feeling, but I think I'm gonna reserve most of that for Patreon. Live chat sessions where people can engage and talk with me, more interpersonal, more close-knit. Oh, and any video that I'm gonna upload to YouTube will be available on Patreon 24 hours before it drops, and they will have access to that content. There's a lot more that are probably left out that I'm offering for each tier, but if it's something that interests you, again, I'm gonna provide the link in my description box, and you guys are free to check that out and support me however you can. But yeah, I just wanna take a moment to say thank you so much for supporting me throughout this entire journey. I know my time on YouTube has been a little bit short, like I'm just getting started, but so much has happened, and I feel like so far the people who are here with me in this current moment have witnessed so much in my life, and to have the support, to see people commenting, watching anything that I create, like it fills me with joy. And I feel like being on here in specific, like the engagement is different. You know, people are offering nuanced perspectives, and I'm getting comments that are like paragraphs worth of written texts of people analyzing like things that I may have said in the video or sharing their takeaways. I enjoy so much of what I've experienced on here so far. I do have a video coming up on the infamous would you date a bisexual man question that's always coming up throughout the year, every 2 to 3 business days. So stay tuned for that, doing a bit of research, fleshing out some of my ideas though I can bring a full, concise, well-rounded perspective and video essay for you guys. So yeah, other than that, I have nothing else to say. And yes, thank you. I love you, and I will see you in the next video.